Hey, I'm Daniel Prinn, and I'm a staff writer here at The Movie Buff. And I am just popping in quickly to introduce this conversation with director and writer Alex Noyer for his new horror thriller Sound of Violence, a film starring Jasmin Savoy Brown that is best described as a short pitch of a story about a woman who makes music through her murders. It's a film that beautifully mixes colors, music, and of course murder. And to hear more about it, watch this interview and also check out the film as it's released on video on demand today, May 21st. There will be a link below to viewing options. And I'll just note as well that Alex and I had this conversation about the film back at its South by Southwest premiere in March. So if there's any outdated conversation topics, that is why. Anyway, let's get right into it. Hey, Alex. So I am here with director and writer Alex Noyer for Sound of Violence. How's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Great, yeah. I'm glad to have you here. I'd love to start with just asking about the inspiration. Did it start from a love of horror or a love of music?
My love of horror started when I was 9 years old. I watched Night of the Living Dead, and that just changed my mind. That just changed everything for me. My love of music started also very young, and my career was really, really dealing a lot with sort of culture, arts, music. So I made documentaries, and so this is where it started. Really, it started with the documentary I produced called 808, which premiered at South by in 2015, and that was about an 808, the TR-808 drum machine. We had Beastie Boys and Pharrell and Questlove and Phil Collins, and it was an incredible journey that took over 5 years of my life. And then I decided to change gear and really explore my. Actually, my wife is the one who really told me that it's time for me to really get into what I love the most in movies, which are horror movies, and so I was developing another project, but I had a light bulb moment. I thought about how I documented my drum machines and how obsessed I was with them, and there came the idea that I should kill somebody with a drum machine, and there came the idea of the short conductor, but we got very lucky. The short toured amazing festival, won a bunch of awards. The special effects were amazing, but what really seemed to stay with the audience and with me was the character of Alexis. And I had obviously created a little bit of our universe around the short and made up my mind about a few things, but with this strong response to her and the questions I was getting about who she is, her motivation, or her origins, I decided to write her backstory. And then from writing her backstory, initially I thought that I could even make a short just of the backstory, but then I really kind of got into the process of writing the feature, and it became a very organic process, and it happened very quickly. And then there's always a good sign when you can summarize a movie in one sentence, and I was in Cannes in 2019, and going to people pitching the movie as simply, this is a story of a killer who makes music through her murders. And that got me instant responses, yes or no's and stuff. But that really motivated me. That the concept was single-minded and really kind of ready to go. And so that was in May 2019. But by Halloween 2019, we were shooting. So it really happened quickly. Same thing with financiers. They got it immediately, and they really jumped on board. Our executive producer, Mike McCary, was very excited about the concept, especially when we shifted it from the horror of the short toward more of a character piece and thriller. So very exciting process. And then we renamed it Sound of Violence, and it really came together.
Okay. Did you bring anyone over from the short, like the sound team at all?
Actually, pretty much most of the production team were from the short. Hanno Aokia, who produced the short, it also produced the feature. Jaakko Maninen, who composed the music, also composed the music. He was also helped by Alexander Burke and Omar Aldib on this one because it was a bigger job. But then Jussi Tegelman, who did the mix, Gillian Chance, who did the production design with Tony Prado, also came from the short. My blood wizard, Robert Bravo, also, who there's very few people who can maybe deal with how specific I am about how blood has to look, and he can. He's an absolutely he's a superstar, and I work with him any day because he gets me. And yeah, so there's quite a few people like that that came from the short, and jumped on the opportunity to be involved in the feature, and I was really excited about that. We also, you might spot some of the actors from the short, in various scenes in the background, and yeah, it was the organic growth was there, and a lot of shared elements.
What was it like with the sound design, just making it immersive and how we feel the beats with Alexis and how we feel her hearing loss as well?
So first with the beats creating beats and music mixed with gore was a challenge that we also got to experiment with on the short, because and that experience was invaluable to then create the identity of the feature, because I remember when I talked to Jaakko and the team about the fact that I want the gore to be musical, and and the actual music to be as gruesome as the flesh sounds. They kind of told me I was crazy, and I said, I can take that, but can we do it? And so that experience was obviously one that really allowed us to then push the envelope when it came to developing the sound and the soundscape of this film. Jasmin is also a musician, and that helped a lot because she really had a real sense for the instruments, for all the process that we were dealing with. All that helped tremendously. But then when we introduced the elements such as synesthesia and hearing loss, which are not in the short, those were going to be, with the music being essentially one of the protagonists, that allowed us to create a connection, a real grounded connection between the music and the characters in their reality. And so with the hearing loss, I always had a sense that we could just really pull it back and have a tone, a real subtle tone, to make sure that we felt it. We also had consultants as far as hearing loss and how hearing loss is portrayed. So all the way to the family room and such. And so I wanted to be extremely respectful of the condition of losing one's hearing and regaining it and potentially losing it again. I didn't want it to be a gimmick. So we consulted, and we tried to be as accurate as we could. And this is where from little Camilla all the way to Jasmin, they really, studied the condition and to give it a performance. Again, there were, the young Alexis has lost her hearing in an accident and regained it in the gruesome circumstances that we discover. And it was important for us to speak to consultant to know how that would come across. And the fact that she keeps speaking, she signs, but not perfectly. Nothing is natural, is normal. The same way as like her mother, the way she's communicating, there's lip reading and such. Again, we tried to get it right, and that came through research and consultants, and hopefully all the respect we could offer to a life that we can't understand without living.
Okay, awesome. Because yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen Sound of Metal, but I think in similar ways, they're both your film and that film are immersive, and I think you do capture that well.
I love Sound of Metal. I loved
So
it. I
good.
absolutely loved it. I thought this film was absolutely incredible. I hope Riz Ahmed wins an Oscar, because that film is fantastic. And yes, when it came out, some people asked me, it's like, oh, well, are you sure you're going to stick to Sound of Violence? I'm like, we have like-minded titles, and we both deal with hearing loss, but we're not the same. We're not at all same movies. And frankly, watching Sound of Metal made me feel very good about what we did, because there were similar choices in the way hearing loss is approached, and also, yeah, I'm just happy that we can um, address a topic like that, and that we're not the only ones, and we can um, hopefully create awareness and and offer some accuracy, hopefully, in our portrayal.
Also, I was curious just to ask like about the visuals and the colors and the synesthesia. I think is that how you say it. What was that like exploring the colors of the film?
So that's a key part of our narrative. It's funny because that was not in the short at all. And when Hannu and I, Hannu Aoke, the producer, and I discussed synesthesia as a sort of a way to kind of give an on picture representation of her artistic motivation, her artistic drive, the artistic high of her creation, we were very excited about it. And reading about it, you know, for me, it's really an ability. You know, experiencing sound in a different dimension is something that just truly inspires artists. And I've seen painters and musicians whose synesthesia or synesthetic abilities are really a key part of their motivation. So I felt that this was a good way to give her that motivation and to connect her with those specific sounds in a way that takes her in her own world. And it will also bring the audience with her on that artistic journey, because her artistic motivation is essentially what makes her different from most killers. She's not a killer, she's an artist. And she is willing to create at all costs, but the artistic high is what kind of it's hard to say justifies it, because obviously the acts are gruesome, but kind of gives them context. And working with the fantastic cinematographer Daphne Qin Wu, who absolutely understood from our first conversation the need for light and color to be omnipresent, and her work before this movie really excited me. And I wanted her to, this is not her favorite genre, but she jumped on board because, you know, the creation of light and colors, the colors that are going to be in the scenes, the colors that are going to be really part of the omniscient environment, where a visual language she really understood, and she was my eyes. And Daphne really understood how I wanted to feel, and she gave it the dose of intimacy as well that will bring the audience closer to Jasmin. And no, we're all very grateful to Daphne to that.
Okay. I wanted to get a little bit into the horror as well. I don't want to spoil too much, so I'll ask it. Like, did the murder contraptions, was there anything that you had written that didn't make it in the film?
There's a whole scene that didn't make it into the film. There's a very elaborate scene that didn't make it into the film, because it would have kind of changed the balance of. I wanted all the contraptions, or all the scenes to be very human scaled.
Okay.
In the short, there it's quite over the top, and that's why some people kind of compared the short to Saw, and which was not my intent. So I just, by bringing it more at a human scale, I wanted to make sure that it was her craft. It felt like something she was in control of fully, and she didn't need help or anybody, you know, kind of apart from obviously Marie, who provides her with the equipment unknowingly what it was going to be for. But it needed to feel like something she did herself, and it was very important for me. And so so the scene that we removed was not, it was too big, and and it felt like it took away from, it was too far out from Alexis' world, and that's why we had to cut it. I won't say what it is, because it might make a comeback at some point.
Okay, I was going to ask, but if you don't want to share, that's fine. I'll wait for the deleted scenes.
It involved DJing. That's all I'll say.
Okay. That's awesome. So there is definitely like a love of, like as we discussed, there's definitely a love of music, and Jasmine playing, doing her DJing. Like the music is actually like really good. I mean, it's gruesome, but
Thank you.
like I couldn't help but think during it, like, okay, like this is gruesome, but these beats are sick.
Well, this is, I mean, a credit to Jaakko Manninen, who came from the short and composed the music there with Alex Burke and Omar Aldi. It was, I wanted the music to be enthralling. You know, I obviously I come from a long line of collaboration with the music industry. I produced music videos as much as the big documentary. So it was always important for me to the music to be on point and to represent my intent. And I'm kind of hoping that a lot of people start nodding to the music and then go, "Oh, what am I doing? This is not." And this is part of the conflicted relationship the audience has to have with Alexis. She's an artist. What she does is crazy and gruesome, but she's an artist, and her music is a way to reel them in as well.
Okay, so you can like the artist, but you don't have to like the killer, I guess.
I leave the audience to feel conflicted about that, and I think that's actually going to be what I hope the audience experiences, this conflicted moment of like caring for her, wondering why they're caring for her, liking her music, and then going, but wait, you know, and it just like, it's this uncertainty and this playfulness is also what makes this movie fun. It has, you know, love and sorrow. It has a lot of drama going into it, intertwined, but it also has a fair bit of fun. Especially there's one scene in the middle that is definitely on the more fun part.
Okay. And just talking about the fair bit of fun, and just what was it like for Jasmine and Lily Simmons creating their on-screen chemistry as the roommates?
So I mean, the way first, you know, Jasmine kind of embodied I apologize, my dog is barking.
It's okay.
Jasmine took on the role, you know, as I said, first meeting, it felt like I had met Alexis. And then the first time Lily and Jasmine met, chemistry was there immediately. And it was very important for me to let that be theirs, because it needed to feel like a natural partnership and friendship. And so I just felt like it was necessary to play with them on a day, like just being friends, but knowing as well that that you know, there's a lot of secrets being kept away from each other. And then after that, they also worked a lot together. They worked in the days leading up to the shoot and the days during the shoot. We had conversation together. They had conversation together to make sure that the language, the exchange, the tones were really accurate as far as their on-screen dynamic. And also, I'm not a native English speaker, so I wanted that. So I gave them the liberty to kind of adapt some of the sentences to be more the way they would speak about it. And I think that helped a lot because it allowed them to really own those characters, you know, all the way through this process. And I still hope that they still feel those characters are part of them today.
Awesome. That's a great way to end off. So director and writer Alex Noyer for Sound of Violence. Thank you so much for chatting with me on The Movie Buff.
Thank you very much for having me.